Welcome to the show, everybody. This is part 2 of our culture episode. So if you've not listened to part 1, or if you're new, go back and listen to that. And we dig into what culture is and how it shows up in sales in different companies. And the things that I want you to take away is you can impact culture from the top or the bottom. And if you're not happy with your culture, it might be time to make a change. There's a lot more on this episode as well. Please share this with someone if they're in sales and they're struggling. And follow us on social media. Everything is at Sales Throwdown. Enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the main event. In the D corner, we have Clint the Cleaver Bigelow. In the I corner, we have Al the Gambler Daniel. In the S corner, we have Nan the Promoter Foreman. In the C corner, we have John Small Mountain Hill. Let's get ready to throw down!
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is part 2. So if you've not listened to last week's episode, go listen.
Part 2 of what?
Culture, right? Above and below. And if you've not listened to last week's episode, please go back and listen to that one first, because this one kind of picks up exactly where that one left off.
Or fucking don't do it. Just listen to this one.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you like...
Run with scissors, baby.
if you're an I and you're not going to go back and listen to last week's episode, get after it.
Or just because you told the D's to go back,
that's true.
I'm not going to do
That's
it.
true. Every C is no longer listening right now. They've already gone back to the last week's episode. And the S is just uncomfortable.
I love either or.
Whichever one you like is the one I like.
Just do you guys, man. Either do it or don't, but don't complain.
So
I'm not feeling the love for the team tonight.
Oh, come on.
What?
We absolutely love you. You're the best.
Here we go. Love's back.
Love's
That's all
back.
I needed.
Just one small psychological stroke.
Yeah,
She's good.
exactly. There you go, man.
Except for this guy. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So last week we were talking about sales cultures, when you should make a move, how you know if you've got the right people, all of these other things. And, I think we kind of talked about this idea that if you're leading people, you need to really make sure that you're giving them the tools necessary, the training necessary, the help that they need. So that way, if you do have to make a decision to let them go, you can do it with a clear conscience.
I like it.
Right? But then, in addition to that, Clint and Al both said that they don't need that. That
Personally.
Okay, let's talk a little bit more about that.
I'm confused when you say I don't need that.
Let me sum it up.
All right. Please do.
Shut up, I. So, when you're creating...
Oh, no, wait a second. So now you're going to talk for a long time. Hold on. And I'm the dude who...
Trying.
Please,
and
go.
you're on the clock. Go ahead.
So you're trying to develop or create a culture, right? And one thing's... I'll go into this. What he's saying is that me and you, when you put it on us, whether we have a culture to operate within, doesn't really matter to us because we're going to just go in and get it done, right? That's our task-driven gut that we just, hey, look, you're putting it on me. Don't care if you have rules or you have a million of them. I'm going to go do me anyway. Mm-hmm. So that's what he's talking about versus some personalities need those guidelines and those checks, and that all has to be in place for people to operate.
So hold on, though, right? Because the way that you just described that made it sound...
I feel assaulted.
It's not about being insulted. It's about consistency,
incorrect.
right?
Yeah, it's incorrect.
Because you're in this role now, right? You're leading a team, and you're making sure that these guys have the tools and everything that they need. Now, if one of these guys came to you and you're like, you know what, Clint, screw you. I don't need your help. I'm going to do it my way. What happens in that conversation?
Fired.
And
No.
can I bring up less than 5 minutes ago, you were standing out there indicating, talking to your brother, the process that you didn't just jump into where you are right now. So there is a process that you have to.
Well, you guys are getting this. I think you guys are smashing these two things together, right? Because look, what I know about myself, and I think what we indicated the doc also knows about himself, is that if there is nothing in place, there is no culture, our personalities,
you're still gonna be successful.
We're gonna try, right? We're gonna go try to make it successful in our own way, and hopefully that along the way we develop the culture around us, and that people look at us and say, okay, well, there's a process. Let's write this down. We're not gonna write it down for you, but you might write it down watching. That's what I'm saying.
I think that, though, I don't think that's just a D or an I. I think
okay. Let me rephrase.
An S and a C.
I'm saying that we have it more naturally. That's
true. Yeah, I would agree with
That's
that.
all. I'm not
And-
saying that one. I'm not saying you, Nanette, or you, John, don't have that, or Bill out there listening because he's a C doesn't have that. I'm saying that naturally our personalities thrive in that market a little bit better.
So I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was going to become a disc practitioner probably 15, 20 years ago. And we were talking about how we think about it now and how they taught it and thought about it back then. And one of the things that he was really interested in was the fact-driven versus gut-driven, because the way that it was explained to him, and I really like this, is that D's and I's look at it at any situation and say, I can be the positive influence on the situation. I can make it better, right? S's and C's think, okay, I'm not sure if I can, right? Which is kind of the same thing, but the way that he was talking about it, like, hit this thing for me.
That's that detail-oriented part of it too, right? It's like, I don't know if I can because I don't know all the details.
Absolutely.
Whereas me and Doc are like, I don't give a shit if I have any details. We're just going to make it work.
Or I find a positive vibe in an equation that makes sense to me.
That's a little more I than I was.
Well,
but it's right.
But it can be as simple as that.
Yeah, sure.
Or I don't get it, and I'm like, man, that's a complete shit show. I don't know what to do, right? And I'll sit on my heels too.
To be honest with you, it's a little more attractive to me to go into a chaotic world that's been unsolved and try to solve it than it is to pick up where somebody's like, hey, it's all perfect, here you go, and hand it to me. That's not attractive to me.
I think for me now, I think that I could pretty much, I mean, not work in any company because there's a lot of things that I wouldn't want to put up with, but I think I could be successful as a salesperson pretty much selling anything. Now, there's a lot of things that I don't want to sell, and there's a lot of, culture, because that's what we're talking about, that I'm not going to like stand behind and get behind and want to work in.
But that's not selling product or business. That's the people that you're working around.
Absolutely.
Or
the things that they make you do because
exactly.
it's a process.
Yeah, you got to track this, report stuff that has no value to you, right?
Yeah.
In my arena, it's about the joy of the win, right? The kill, the success, the reward, seeing that check. So I get checks in the mail. And they're big as shit.
Mailbox money.
And that is like, I'm like, that turns me on, right? Right? And I don't, guys, I'm being serious when I say that.
So if you hated the people that were around you, everyone who worked under you and stuff like that, but you're making the same amount of money, would you be as happy?
No, I do. I love the culture. Like glad you brought that up. So yesterday, it was a Saturday. Brought in some of our part-timers who went off to college. They came back to help clear up some filing, stuff like that. Love to see these kids come back in, right? Ask them about how college is going. I've seen them grow up in my company. Man, it just makes you feel good. And they get me, and I can sort of get them, and we got some pizza and just stupid stuff like that. But we've really got some meaningful work done. They put in about 6 hours, and I was around the office. Yeah, no, it's all good.
Interesting.
I want to going back to like part one. I remembered something that I really want to talk about is that we talked in part one a lot about creating the culture from the top down, right? And that's pretty well we talked about that the whole time. I know for a fact myself, I've been a part of this where you come in and you're motivated and created it from the bottom up.
Yeah.
And people kind of fall in. They just didn't have that positivity or those wins, and they kind of gather around, and now everything falls into place just because you came into it.
Because I can tell you, I'm not tooting my own horn, but sort of I am. I've been a
You're
guy.
allowed. You're allowed. You're successful.
Okay.
Come on.
So you walk in and you leapfrog over every manager up to the highest rung, right? Over a fucking softball team, right? So bunch of guys, we're all sales guys kind of grinding out. They want to do a softball team. I'm like, well, let's just go ask the dude who can write the check. It's not the douchebag manager, right? Because he's going to give you 20 excises. So you knock on the C door, right? And you go, hey, we're trying to put a softball team together.
And
you think we could appropriate about $1,000 worth of funds? He's like, absolutely, why not? I'm like, cool.
Nugget.
So I come back as the hero because I'm like, because they're like, can we buy bats? And I'm like, well, we got $1,000 budget, I guess, uniforms, bats, right?
Let me go knock on the door again.
Yeah, okay, you need a bat? I'm like, hey, we need a bat too. Why not? I was just there 30 minutes ago.
Nugget, call on the top, at the top person that you possibly can.
don't hurt anybody's feelings, but if somebody says, hold on. Better yet, let me back up another one. I was told no more than probably anybody in this company, right? Hey, let's bring a barbecue pit behind a hospital and serve hamburgers. No, regulations. I got more no's, but the fact that I was asking created this flow of an idea of let's get out here and let's get this done. Yeah. And I would sit in the bullpen and go, well, they fucking told me no. But at least I was trying.
Absolutely.
At least I wasn't like part of like, and I wasn't running away like trying to pretend to sell. Mm-hmm. When I was in the office, man, I would kick back like I owned the place because I was working my dick off outside in the real world, right?
I agree with that.
So I go in and sit down. I'm not afraid of anybody. I don't walk on eggshells. I'll throw myself off the first bridge I pass, right?
No.
Always the bridge.
Always the bridge.
Well, you live in a city. How else are you going to commit suicide, right?
Oh my
hang
God.
yourself, shoot yourself, slit your own wrist, or jump off something high, right?
Hold on.
Somebody stop.
Advisory. We are not advocating
You have to
anybody
cut
commit
that.
suicide.
You cannot.
We're not doctors. Well, actually, I was a
Kevorkian
doctor.
sales. It's called Kevorkian
Oh
sales,
my
guys, man.
God.
Oh
If
my
you're not
gosh.
willing to hold on.
Stop,
Wait a second.
stop
You guys are
saying
you guys are disappointing.
Why?
Seriously?
What?
Sell, go the fuck home, or get another job, or throw yourself off a bridge. Why aren't those options?
They are.
They aren't.
Glenn
That's
agrees.
ridiculous.
I mean, I'm just saying that they are.
sorry.
I don't agree.
At all. That's
Quit with
ridiculous.
the mamby-pamby,
It's
man.
not
You want to win?
mamby-pamby. You
Win.
Figure it out right. Change your attitude. You don't have to go jump off a bridge. Just go find something else. If this is not working
I
for
think
you.
This is very
metaphorically,
Irish.
metaphorically, that's
That's
what
what he
he's
means.
saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
guys, come on. All
Here's a key component of being an I, right? Huge,
Extreme.
extreme statements.
Like, I'm exaggerating, guys.
He hasn't had his bipolar medicine today.
I take no meds. Other than the
There's
natural
let's get,
problem.
let's
We
get
know.
back on track.
Okay.
All right. So, Clint started with an anecdote. We're talking about.
I don't know. What are you
What
looking
a
at
huge
me?
pause. Because you said, hey, going back to something I want to talk about on episode 1.
Oh yeah, I was talking about you can create culture from the bottom up. Doesn't have to be bottom down.
Okay.
You know, so I mean, I think you bring some wins, some positivity. You bring that in, and people follow. Most people like that, right?
But let's say you want to. How do you do that and not rock the boat too much to where you get labeled as the troublemaker?
Well,
or hard to work with?
you got to care if you rock the boat or not. That's one.
But you don't care, right?
Well,
I disagree.
some people that's part of it, right? You have to even care. You have to even wonder about yourself if you care if you rock the boat or not.
Have you guys ever thought that I was a rebel rouser, that I wasn't going to try to do the best thing for everything going forward in our group?
No.
Did you say web a
Wider rouser?
I don't think you.
Wait a second, where's the rabbit?
I don't think he was talking about you
Wait a
specifically.
second, I thought we were hunting.
I like that everything ends up being about the eye.
Of course it does.
100%.
Like, oh,
Wait a
yeah.
second,
Oh,
you get on your tangents too,
look.
mister. You get on your tangents too.
Oh,
The
you-
audience knows. They've
Oh, you
heard
guys-
Clint way more than they've heard me.
You guys have talked. You guys are talking. It must be about Doc Al.
No.
Okay, let's get back to
Okay, so do I think that you've ever had anything other than good intentions? Is that what you're asking?
Do I run around trying to damage things, or do I run around trying to improve things?
Conversationally or in business?
Across the board.
Oh, across the board.
Give us an example.
Because you'll rabble rouse in some conversations,
Rabble
but
I'll poke some fun. I'll challenge.
you can be quite the
people.
tomfool at times, Al.
But relative to the business, like what we're trying to do
Yeah.
here, right? Have you ever found me detrimental,
No, not at all.
right?
Except
Or
for
trying
the
to destroy the
statement.
project?
Other than all the suicide references.
Hold on, guys. I'm glad nobody's jumped off a bridge. I'd be the only one here, right? All three of you guys like catch it out on the same day. Bad day for me, right?
I'm too vain for that.
Everybody's got a reason for
Hey,
not doing it.
that'd be
That's all I
mine.
got to
That'd
say.
be mine.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a reason.
So you talk about rocking the boat, right?
Mhm.
What do you give yourself? Do you go in there and you shake everything up and you try to get everybody on your team, or it's either your side of the fence or the other? That's not really. It happens.
It does happen.
But you have to calculate those moves.
Yeah, that's
right?
what I was going to say.
part
is
of your professionalism.
every
right?
everything you do in life
I don't
should
ever
be-
do anything stupid.
I was going to say
right?
everything's a little bit tactical.
I mean, I'm not walking in and slapping the C office around, right? I'm doing my job. I'm showing some numbers. I got some points on the books. People are like, who's the new guy? What's going on? Oh, my goodness, man. He's a little bit older, a little bit gray. And I'm like, look, I can F you up, right? And the next thing I know, good things are happening. People were like, hey, I support that. I mean, you get that little whisper.
So let's talk about when it doesn't go the way that it should go. Because
it always does.
It doesn't. It happened to me.
Agree, but it didn't happen to me.
Okay. Well, it's your world. We just live in it. Hashtag Team I.
Not really.
Part two, part I.
So I took a role, and it was a non-sales role, and first time I'd not been in a sales role in a very long time, and was with a startup, and the burn rate got too high, and there were some layoffs, and I started to feel very nervous. And so I was like, well, I'll just try to help out the sales team. I've been doing this for a while.
Okay.
I know some stuff. I've been around. Let me see if I can just help, at least being like a role play dummy. And I'm trying to be very, cautious here. And they started to like it, and then I got told to stay in my lane. And I said, well, we're pretty small, and I think I can help, and we're laying people off because the burn rate's too high. What if I do it on my own time? Like, well, we didn't hire you to be a salesperson. Okay.
So people in a struggling company are telling you to shut off something that they see as positive?
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly what happened. And I was really trying to dig in with the guy who was my immediate manager person about, because he kept saying, well, I need to see more from you. And I don't know what more is. So I would push back. Hey, what do you mean by more? Like, what are the metrics? So that way I know exactly where you need me to be. And he gave me those metrics. And then every time we interacted, it was still like, not enough. And I was hitting the metrics that we talked about. And in the next round of layoffs, I got laid off. So it doesn't always work. You got to pick your battles, and you got to.
Agreed. But if you're in a strong, thriving, successful company that you've hired into, and you're excited about being there, wouldn't you bring your own innovation to the program? And if you saw a deficit, and you saw ways that they could be better, and you saw some laggers that you could like bring up scale, and you could create like this culture, which is softball team is part of the culture.
Yeah.
Right? We're sticking to topic. And nobody wants to go ask for the aluminum bat that costs $250 and uniform. I'm talking about simple, right?
So, in your opinion, I didn't do it right because I went too big.
Well,
is that what you're asking? You're saying?
No, I don't know all the dynamics.
No, that's fair.
I'm talking about simply where I was, and that you said you might have been just caught in something that never was going to survive, right?
No, that's true.
And the company that I'm talking about is still there.
Yeah,
right. And some of the guys are still there. So we weren't struggling.
Yeah,
I was trying to find a way to interact, build a better culture. People were coming in, and there was this disconnect from the people who were in the C-suite, down to the managers, down to the frontline guys, and I just saw a need, and so we patched the gap. I saw some guys having a conversation. I'm like, let's have a conversation with those guys. Made it happen.
You guys are talking about positivity in the culture side, but there's also the flip side of the coin where people are culture killers, right? And see that a lot.
The negative Nancy's. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, just for
you
example,
just yell "fuck you" from the other side of the room to those guys.
I'll give it to you.
That's the guy. He's over there. The pariah.
When I first started, when I was on one of my very first exercises in the Marine Corps, we were on a range getting to shoot these, badass machine guns, right? And all I could think was like, how in the hell did I come from the cornfield to this place where it's just, this is awesome, right? And I remember this older guy, and I said older, like a year and a half, but Marine Corps world, that's 10 years.
When you're 19, that's huge.
So he's sitting next to me, leaning against his pack, and I remember him saying, God, I fucking hate this range. This sucks, man. Do this again. I had to do this last year. And instantly, my entire thought process about the entire what we do here went straight through the ground, like just plummeted. Like, oh man, he's right. This does suck. Oh, I hate this. And I remember that.
Did it really, or you just bought his?
No, I just because I looked up to him. I thought he was he
super
was
squared away.
Yeah, I thought he was everything there was to be. That's who I wanted to be. And then for me in my own head to say, okay, I can't believe I get to do this. They're paying me to do this. And then that guy to say those little words, destroyed my whole culture.
Say that, okay, so that just proves our words influence other people, but we also have to be responsible for how we receive words that we hear.
What I'm saying is, I think if you said that phrase opposite to a guy that hated what he was doing, and you said, "Man, can't you get around the idea that they're paying us to do this awesome? What do you want to do? You want to go back to farming? You want to go back to the bank that's a dead end job,
or do you just want to go back and clean the barracks?
Yeah, I mean, but that's how it works both ways, right?
Yeah.
Is that
Agreed.
positive, negative influence?
Exactly.
They both really.
So when you had the nutsacks to tell that guy to jump off a bridge before he comes to work tomorrow, right?
I mean, I get
that's the win I'm talking
it,
about.
But it is a good point to like, hey man, screw you. It's not my opinion. That's
I'm
yours.
like, exactly.
Go sit in your corner and cry to yourself.
So what are you not liking about this? This
but
is
that's
fun.
that's a very mature mindset to think that way, and I don't know that there's.
Well, you're going to see that all the time in sales roles as well, right?
That's what I'm saying.
I agree.
Because
it runs
right. The leads are
rampant.
shit. Well,
Yeah.
are they?
Are they? I mean,
I can't
they are
close
what you
anything
make.
because the company won't let me make any decisions.
absolutely. I've heard
But
that.
maybe
a bunch.
you can't
Yeah.
close dick, right?
Yeah,
That's why
absolutely.
the company won't give you what they're
Yeah,
giving.
but that's
me.
Or they tried and you closed at bad margins and you discounted yourself into oblivion and you
Well,
you know
whining is
yeah.
so destructive. I mean, it serves no purpose.
Okay, I heard something the other day that 70% of everything that comes out of our mouth is negative. And some people, it's 90% of what comes out
I
of
agree
our
with
mouth,
that.
right? 70% is just the average. Don't be that guy, right? If all you're talking is shit that's about what it's not or what it is, that's on you. That's not on the world. The world doesn't fucking care. It's still going to spin. Sun's going to come up. It's going to go down. And you're going to be in the same fucking place, whether you're talking good things or bad things. And I know that's romper room, but guys, listen up. If 70% of what comes out of you, because you listen to it first when it comes out of your mouth, right?
That's true.
So if you're preaching negativity to yourself instead of I got to win, what's my hit ratio, all the things we talk about,
Go do something else.
change your verbiage.
Yeah.
Change your verbiage, and then you can speak to others with a clear conscience.
Yeah.
Just the way I speak. You don't like it? Go jump off a bridge.
If you're talking, if you're talking like that in that mentality of that negativity to your own self or your family or the McDonald's cheeseburger that you got that's just bullshit. I only got 2 pickles and 1 and 3. Imagine what you're doing with your customers sitting down in front of them. Probably coming out pretty negative, and you don't even know it, right? It's just your language. That's what you're doing.
Yeah. I
Right.
mean, you're not winning for a reason, and it could be a process, and it can be an attitude, right?
That's true.
Both
Right?
of those are important.
Attitude plays.
Self-sabotage is definitely a thing, right? If you are just convinced that you're supposed to be broke, right, you're going to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that was one of my bigger revelations in life is when I realized, like, I tried to disprove my own attitude and emotion, right? So, sales training, hated it.
Mhm.
Why am I here? I know how to do this. Why in the hell would anybody pay for me to go sit in a stupid seminar and try to learn? But I think one day something clicked, and I was like, let me just disprove all of this.
Yeah.
And it turned, right? I learned.
I will tell you, when I first met you, though, you were the quiet one across the way.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Hold
Hated
on, but you didn't say you hated it. You were just quiet. You weren't spilling 70% negativity.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
just didn't like it, and that was
Just-
sitting with you. And then you figured out what you needed to do with that, right? Which
Agreed.
is reasonable. I can respect
Yeah.
anybody who says that.
Absolutely.
But you weren't sitting up bitching and moaning about.
People are attracted to confidence. If you have got to develop a confident attitude, and and that's Clint has
That's a
a
good
confident
point.
attitude, and I has a confident attitude. C does if all their ducks in a row, but
Otherwise, no. Right?
you've got to.
I can be very negative.
But
But if you got a team
I don't think
that's
you're
telling
negative.
you otherwise,
Yeah.
I don't find you negative at all.
I don't.
Well,
I found you to be a rational individual who says, "Here's where I find fault in that,"
Yeah.
and I'm good with that. That's not a negative statement. That's pointing out here's how this could go wrong, or where there may be a deficiency.
I can be hard to work with.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, absolutely you can. Because I am always looking for explanation, right? And this is why I, whenever they let
that's
me.
not negative though.
Well, it is if you don't have the answer.
It can be perceived that way.
Exactly.
Why you question me, dude? I told you to
Exactly
get this
right.
shit done.
Absolutely.
I don't have a problem with questioning. What I have a problem is when I see other people spewing their own negativity, defeating themselves before they ever get started with, this is going to suck, Well, how do you know?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
Now,
How do
if
you
you
know?
say lifting 100-pound bags of cement because I'm not in construction sucks, I'm in sales, and they were short-handed back here. All right, I get that. Everybody can make a comment. But if you are your actions, if your verbiage is shutting down your action step, wrong.
Yeah.
Go do the action step and then report back, right?
You know,
No,
and
I
It
agree
didn't
with
work
that.
out very
Yeah.
well and it stunk, right?
And we've discussed before going into your client, talking to them. If simplest form, you have a headache, and they don't want to know about your headache. They don't want to see that your eyes are
Absolutely.
squinting. You do not bring that to the game. You just don't bring it because you won't succeed. People don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear when someone comes to me and they're selling me something. I'm an S and I'm empathetic, but I usually people are thinking about what they need. And if you're the salesperson, you better find out what they need, not by complaining about what your problem is that day. And I cannot tell you how many times I've heard people that I've worked with that complain, oh, I have a headache, or, just.
Well, part of that is you, though, right? You enable a little bit of that because
Mhm.
you are so
'Cause you're
warm
caring.
and you do care and you're very empathetic. And when you say that, how's your day going? It sounds different than whenever I or Clint says,
What's up, dude? How's it going?
yeah,
Don't care.
exactly,
Just answer
right?
it so we can move on.
It is much more of a social nicety whenever like Clint and I say it versus whenever you say it, which sounds like putting the hand on the shoulder. Hey,
So why do you guys
how's
even
your
day?
say it if you don't care?
No,
Because I do care.
Social
I
norm.
do too.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, you said
Yeah.
that before. I mean, like just 2 seconds.
But
ago.
it's a little bit different. We have to be careful what we're talking about. I'm talking about when I go in to see my client, if I ask them how they're doing, I do care about that.
sure.
But if
Yeah.
someone's coming to me and asking
So what
me,
happens when you get the actual the negative response? It's a shitty day.
well,
Tell me a little bit more
yeah,
about it.
investigate.
But okay, so let's dig into that a little bit because like, do you really care why it's a shitty day?
Yeah, I do. If
Yeah.
I'm there for a sales conference,
It's
should
gonna
we
matter.
reschedule? Is
Okay,
it so
Oh,
that's,
horrible
that
that we
that's
shouldn't
important.
have this
That's
conversation?
super
Totally
important.
gonna matter.
That's super important.
Oh,
That's
okay.
something that
Yeah.
I miss, right? Oh,
What?
you're having a shitty day. Anyway, let's get to the meeting.
Oh yeah, because
I miss
because
that,
you
right?
compartmentalize very well.
Absolutely. I'm like, yeah, I don't give what does that have to do with business?
Well,
Yeah.
if somebody says, I have a deaf
But
family, I'm like,
But
well,
that's a good point.
Should we reschedule? That's a great point.
Yeah.
You know,
Because I don't do that.
no, you don't.
I should do that a lot more.
Yes, you
Well,
should.
well, because then that also goes to the
and it takes it away from them, and then they
a
have
little
to
bit, for
decide
sure,
to
right?
engage you,
Mhm.
right? Instead
Well-
of being hung where they're at.
but there's also like the jadedness that kind of goes along with being a salesperson of to Clint's point, you hear that the day's not good or you're
stop the fucking train, jaded.
hold on, you can be jaded
Go
as a
fuck
salesperson.
yourself, jaded.
I'm not saying
Go home, jump off the bridge, or fake it. But fuck the jaded. That's on you. That's not on society.
I get it.
No, most people are out there ready to buy, and
Hey.
you're jaded,
Hey.
and you want to complain about them.
hey,
You're jaded, and you want to complain because there's a bunch of buyers out there, and you can't get to them because you're jaded. Oh, that's on you, motherfucker. It really is.
hey, we're on the same side, buddy. I don't
No,
know.
I
why
know.
you're
I'm
yelling at
just,
me.
I'm just yelling back because it's such a good point.
News to
Well,
me.
I'm jaded. Oh,
I'm like,
I get it because there's the problem with sales. I wake up every day so fucking glad I'm where I'm at.
Oh,
So glad.
So going back to this role that I got hired for, I was excited for about 3 days. And then I had this, and I remember it clear as day. First day, super excited. Second day, this is awesome. Third day, great. Fourth day, I wake up and I'm like, holy shit, I have no control over anything. I can't impact revenue. I can't, and right then, I think that if you're somewhat successful and you're in this world long enough, you get to the point where you can't go back. You can't go do anything else.
Well, you feel that you can't.
I wouldn't be happy doing anything else, I don't think. What else would I do?
Kind of a million other things. To be honest
I was
with
going to say, I
No
can think of
way.
a million things.
And that's
I
me
agree
saying
with
that.
John. I don't know what else I would do.
Right, because
This is
at
all
this
I know how to
point,
do.
At this point,
Really
I
well.
you. Well,
I
it's
think
what
I
you're
do-
invested in.
Well, I think I do a pretty good job of sliding outside of my personality zone enough, right? Because remember, C's are not the best salespeople straight out of the box. That's not saying you can't be successful as a C, but you got to work in the right environment. And you got to have good mentors and good training, right? But that's across the board, really, if we're being really honest about it. But I can't think of anything else that I would feel happy to do at the end of the day.
I think as a C, that's a very calculated mentality.
Oh, dude, I think
Like
about it.
I'm invested 20 years, so it's no going back.
It's
now.
not about a sunk cost, though.
Okay, but
Is
that's
it?
so
No.
good though, because he can honestly feels compelled to ask the right question. He wants to ask the right question. He needs to ask the right question
Yeah.
to get the right response. Whereas I have all this fear and emotion tied to, should I ask this? Should I not ask this? How do I get to the crux of really doing the sale versus all the song and dance that I do ahead of the game?
So, Al, I'm curious. When was the last time you knew you were supposed to ask a question? Because like your process tells you so, your alarm bells are going off or whatever it is, and you just couldn't bring yourself to do it. Because I don't see you as that guy.
I know. I thought that when you stated that, I thought, what?
Al does such a good job of sliding to the D and being task oriented and getting stuff done that he's not.
Now I fail myself all the time, right?
Okay.
Because I'll go out of a sales meeting and it will feel like I all I did was dance around like a jester, right? And gather information, but not ask the really tough questions. And it's usually centered around money and time
Okay.
and access. My
you know what?
ability to come in and do the job that I need to
I
do.
think the reason for you, and because you're
Who's
an
the
I,
you?
Al Daniel, because you're an I, is you have a tendency to talk so much and not step back and listen. And every time I go to a sales call with him, that's what I think. I'm like, oh, quit talking.
You did stop me the last
I'm like,
one
quit
we were in
talking
on, yeah,
and be calm.
which is good.
Man, it's gonna be a rough day in the office tomorrow for you.
No,
guys.
no, it's good. I like it when because I recognize that,
knows,
and
yeah.
and we talk about it afterwards. I'm like, thank you for. She was like next, like
Yeah.
which is a cue to me to be quiet and let's move on. With,
Post call debriefs are huge, right?
Yeah.
After action reports, right, is what it's called in the military, right? You got to sit down and go through what
And be
worked and what
honest.
didn't, and that's the
Yes,
thing, right? As
absolutely.
salespeople, it's super easy to like stick your head in the sand and get lucky, and feel like, oh man, I killed it.
no,
That's-
guys, no. I'm telling you, I don't do it, so don't do it.
Yeah.
Face the music after the fact and own your shit.
Yeah.
there's
Own it
nothing.
because there's no value to not owning
Exactly.
it. There's all this like insight, and when people criticize you, say thank you.
Yeah, so you
Absolutely.
get to learn.
Just say
Move on.
thank you, and then go. All right, I shouldn't do that again. Or if I do that, then I get the same result, which is less than optimal. And yeah,
Do you take that kind of criticism well, Clint?
No.
So is there a certain level that someone has to be at for them to give you like
Yeah, they got to be validated.
okay? And how does someone validate themselves? for you?
bonafide.
Better
Bonafide.
than me.
Better than you? Okay. In all realms or just one realm?
Yeah.
All.
I don't know. No, there are workarounds. You do it really well to me all the time. Where you're like, I really don't like that.
Because I've heard you. I agree.
Right.
I've heard you go a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And-
not like you don't.
But you
compliment us.
brought something to the table too. You didn't just say, "Well, I didn't like the way you said that question in that meeting." Period. Like, okay,
Oh yeah.
hey mother effer,
So
like
what?
you got something better? Because a lot of people do that, right? It's
Yeah.
like, hey, how do you think our sales conversation went? You know, when you're after action,
Mhm.
two guys go to the sales meeting and you're sitting down and you say, hey man, how do you think it went? Yeah, I didn't really like the way you said that, but next time we'll get them. Okay, well that's not what we're talking about, but that's pretty typical after action
Oh, yeah.
report for a lot of
Absolutely.
people because you just want to blow up your buddy to make yourself feel better about how you did it.
Yeah.
Doc squints his eyes, but I think that happens. Well,
Oh.
I don't think I know it happens a lot.
I mean, for if you're working with someone, whether it's group sales calls or whether it's like an accountability buddy, like they have to be invested in your success,
And that's the
not
thing.
not just wanting to bust your chops if you fail.
And sometimes you need to ask like, hey, so John does this really well to me. He'll be like, so when you asked that question, did you have a reason you asked it that way? And I'm like, well, honestly, did it come off weird? I don't know. I don't know what I did. Could you repeat it for me? So now you're working through a problem with me and you're bringing something to the table and now we're becoming a team. We're gelling.
And
Mhm.
Dan and I do that.
Yeah, sure. But a lot of people don't, right? It's just like, well, I didn't like the way you asked that question. I thought it was pretty brash. Okay. Thanks. But like, what do you mean? What
Yeah,
happened?
yeah.
And they don't
A
have
little
anything
better
else.
feedback.
So,
Sure.
if you're in that culture and you have that person, make sure you guys are really getting value out of why you're saying what you're saying. Just don't.
Absolutely.
So that's why I say, do they need to be validated? Yeah, for me, because validation is you're better than me. You have something else to bring to the table than what I did. Otherwise, why are you talking? Right?
Oh, absolutely. Right. If you just don't like what the other person did, but you don't have anything
That's what I'm saying.
constructive to offer,
So I
shut up.
said it pretty simply. You got to be validated. You got to be better than me. But that's what I'm talking about, right? You brought something else to the table other than what I did. If you don't, then shut the hell up because I'm still learning too, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Love
Awesome.
it. Love it. every day, guys, every day we get up and try to learn something new
Yeah.
about what we
Oh,
do to feed our
100%.
families and make our
So important.
future more secure. And you should too.
And however you get that, right? Whether
Yeah.
it's teaching the new guy something on your team, right? Because you're in that role and you've stepped up and you decided to do it, or whether it's going and sitting at the feet of someone who is like the highest performer on your team. Like, go be 1% better today than you were yesterday.
In healthcare, it's see one, do one, teach one.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
So in sales, we should have the same moniker, right? See one, do one, teach one. Meaning, look at the format, get out there and try it, and then try to tell somebody else how you did it, or critique back and forth because somebody's looked over your shoulder and said the same things. Well, why'd you approach it this way? Because it's Wile E. Coyote out there that we're trying to catch, right? Or the Roadrunner, and we're Wile E. Coyote, right? And the guy's got all these tricks and all these things that are popping up, and when we keep running into anvils and
TNT dynamite,
exactly, and like tunnels that shrink, and we run into them, and our forehead gets
This
hung
is
up
the one
there.
time where you could say "run off the bridge," and you didn't even use it.
No, because I really mean kill yourself, right? I'm not. It's not metaphorical. You should probably not
Ow,
be
ow,
here.
ow.
Wow.
Hold on. But that's a serious call to action, right? Because that's what we're talking about here, guys. This is how you feed and clothe and do all the things that you want to do beyond, where you're at.
Yeah, I always you talk about culture and developing this like day to day. Want to get up and actually do. You guys say you love what you do. You couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah.
Not a lot of people are out there doing that. So I will say, somebody told me a long time ago that you spend the first 20 years of your life trying to get this great job so that you can work it for 40 years just to retire on a boat, right? That's and you forget about the 40 years, the majority of the time, and you forget to be happy in that 40 years. You spend it all for the last 20 that you're crippled up, you can't do it anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess my kind of call to action challenge is be, really make sure that you're in something that's making the culture happy. Like, make sure when you get up and you really love to do this, make sure you're making the next 40 years happy in whatever business you're in.
And
I like that coming from D.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that he's
Way to
spot
go,
on.
dude.
He is
Well,
spot on.
And I'm not the guy who advocates that everyone should go start their own business. But if you're not happy working for 3 to 4 different companies, then and you are in sales, then maybe you should. Because
and a lot of
disagree.
A lot of people come back too, though. I've seen a lot of people go start their own business, realize, you know what, I had it pretty
Absolutely,
damn good,
right?
and I need to go back.
There's what I'm saying.
there is some clarity.
Read
there.
a book called The E-Myth.
I've read
It's
it.
a short read. Everybody should, because people do things for different reasons, right?
Mhm.
And being a high-paid gun, oh my God,
Yeah. Well,
that's a great position.
I will say,
Guys, hold on to that.
the worst reason to go start your own thing is because you want more money. Because you can go find more money working under someone else and not have to deal with all this shit that goes along with like starting your own business. But if your reasons are other, right, more freedom, more
Agreed.
control, then that's awesome. And really, honestly, the E-Myth is an amazing book. I read it after I started Adapted Growth, and it really kind of showed I wasn't trying to build a business. I was just trying to create a job around myself, right, which is something we've talked about. And went back to the drawing board on my business and kind of threw out some ideas that were paying me pretty well. I had to go fire some clients because it wasn't scalable. I was the only guy who could do it, and I had to go tell these clients, hey, I can't do this for you anymore, which was not comfortable and it sucked. But I'm better off now.
The E-Myth is a good book for 2 reasons, right? And it's like counseling when you're in a marriage that's struggling. It'll do one of 2 things. It'll tell you to go forward because you have the right mindset, or it'll tell you to stay where you're at or find a better where you're at, which is like counseling, right?
Mhm.
Counseling should decide, should you 2 stay together or should you 2 split up? And if you split up, what's the best way to do that, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's a win-win. The E-Myth, yeah, guys, get out there and read that.
It's really good.
Who wrote it? Anybody know?
Oh, shit, we'll bring it next
Yeah,
episode.
it'll be in the show notes.
Oh, hold on. Everybody's got Google shit. You don't need us.
Yeah.
Just put it
I was
in
gonna
there.
say.
It'll pop up.
It'll be in the show notes.
Somebody
Go
just-
to
somebody
It's an
salesthrowdown.com.
easy read. Yeah,
Salesthrowdown.
okay. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We put all the notes, all the transcription on there.
As
so
we're talking about this, 90,000 people just ordered it off Amazon through Siri.
you're
Amazon.
welcome.
No. Oh, bitch owes me a little grease.
Yeah, there you go.
Daddy needs at least like a car wash or something.
A car wash?
Worse.
With an R.
Wash
Man.
rat. Wash
Is
rat.
It's
that-
with an R.
wash
It's-
cloth?
that is with an
Going
R.
on with your mouth?
Get the old washcloth out.
Interesting. All right. What else we got on culture? Because you, Clint, have just recently made this change,
Yeah.
right? You went from one company to a new one.
Yeah.
And
I'm doing it from opposite ends. I think when I came into the last company, it was all the nuts and bolts were there, all the right tools were there. There just wasn't a cohesive team, and I don't say that I changed, but I think I changed a part that changed another part that ended up
domino effect.
domino effect into
Started
this
a
team.
softball team, right?
Yeah. I mean, basically, yeah. I mean, came in, it was like, what? Why don't we have a? Yeah, one of the first things I said was like, there's a bowling alley right down there. Oh yeah, we used to do that 15 years ago. We don't do that anymore. Like, why not? You know, like
Great.
why not? Why not get together and do something? It doesn't have to be a bowling team. It's just something, right? It was like, why don't we have a quarterly Friday afternoons where we go throw axes and drink beer or something? You
Yeah.
know? But like you said, Doc, it was just nobody had asked. Nobody even knew to ask, right? So that's what I mean is you might have all the tools in place, but you just need to be the first one to kind of prod them and push forward.
The leader.
That's
Do
from
you
the
know
bottom.
how you stand out if you have even a reason to go to the C-suite and ask a question for the frontline guys, right? Better food, anything. Man, engage yourself with the company that you work with to make things better, not only for yourself, but for everybody, right? And when you do that, you're a leader. Whether you lead in numbers or whether you lead in stature or longevity, you just went to the front of the line for asking a simple question to maybe somebody that everybody thought was unapproachable.
If you wonder if you're a leader, walk down the road 20 paces, turn around. If anybody's following you, guess what? You're a leader. If they're not, get back in line, buddy. I mean, simply put,
Agreed.
figure it out.
So there are some things that I think people think about with culture, right? That is not really culture, because culture is way more about how you interact and the things that you do, and not, other things, right? Because like I know a lot of companies and like, well, we got a ping pong table. Well, a ping pong table with like, that's not culture, right? Or the kegerator in the office, that's not culture either, right? It's way more about how
It's
you
a
treat your
tool.
people.
It's a tool.
I mean, it can be a tool, right? But go ahead.
Okay. So
He will.
hold on.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Tell me a
There's
story.
it's like the water cooler, right?
Yeah.
When people talk about culture, they talk about being around the water cooler, right? And that analogy, and I don't watch a ton of TV, so
The
I
Office.
can't
That's what I
exactly.
know.
Okay, so it's The Office. I knew there was some sitcom that sort of had that. If you're not bringing that around the water cooler effect to the company that you're with, then you're just a number like everybody else is a number. But, and unfortunately, I'm going to kind of go to my socialist roots here, right? Which may hurt somebody's feelings.
Socialist roots, you're from Texas.
No, I understand. But so collective,
I'm joking.
like farming collectives, right? And co-ops and things that bring people together and community. Well, when you walk into your office, that's part of the community that you spend a lot of time with, right? And if you're a sales guy, you're automatically sort of a leader, right?
You think so?
Yeah. Oh,
Well,
I've seen it. That's the way I felt when I walked through the door.
Well, you're
My
a
first-
frontline guy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And so you're out on the streets, you're out there, and so people are there to support what you sell. So you're the front line of that culture. And
I mean, everybody has an important role.
that's my opinion.
I mean,
Well, I go back to this all the time. When you start a construction company, it's usually yourself, right? Or you
Yeah.
branch out on your own. You start yourself, and the first thing you have to do is sell something, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I always think it's funny. It's like the bigger you get, you always look back and you're like, do we even need sales guys anymore?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, yeah,
See
you
how that
kind of
works
do.
out.
Yeah, because you had to have one to begin with, whether it was you,
Hold on,
and you had to perform.
lose some clients, right? What do you go back to doing?
That's
Trying
right.
to sell.
That's exactly right. So that's right.
It's a great analogy. If your clients are always going to be your clients, this is always going to be status quo.
If you can maintain and never want to grow, and you're
Yeah.
not scared of losing anything, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It
don't know
doesn't
who's got
happen
that
that way.
business.
That's a vacuum that doesn't
Yeah,
exist.
Yeah.
exactly.
Your best client is someone else's best prospect.
That's right.
mhm.
So yeah, you just kind of, you're right. I don't know that every sales guy's a leader, but every sales guy's definitely on the front line digging in, right? And you got to have those guys out there. Where I think we fail a lot of times in organizations is we let those guys kind of off the hook, and we're not out there, beating through the bush in Vietnam with that guy with the machetes clearing the path, right? That's your sales guy up front. He's doing that. Whether he's truly a leader leading the people in the culture or not, he's clearing the path for you. He's making it a little bit easier for your day to day.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about that.
Hmm.
And what he brings through the door helps create culture, right? Bringing crap jobs.
Oh, for sure.
Bringing failing stuff in the door.
His attitude also.
Well, because there's a
There's
lot
that.
of companies where the backside of the house, right? The fulfillment, the delivery team, all that stuff. They hate the salespeople, right? And there's this stigma of, you know, the salesperson will sell and say anything to close a deal and then just leave it for the back office, right? So if that's what you're doing, then you deserve all of that animosity. And
But if you are a leader, here's what you're doing. You're selling a project, and then you're telling your support staff where the problems may exist, right? And you're owning the failure of the sale. Meaning, if it isn't going really well, you're saying, sorry, I should have told you that. And then you're getting better at working with your support team.
oh, for sure.
So that they come in and they know it's not perfect. Nothing's perfect. And they need to, but you've laid out where the landmines may exist, how difficult the customer may be, what their expectations are. You've been a good conduit for sales back to production, right? And
Well,
if
then
you're not doing that,
that's the ownership thing.
Yeah.
Well, and the other side of it too is like you get to a certain level, you know, structure-wise, money-wise, revenue-wise, where you kind of split this backdoor team of performance to the front door team of the sales, and you split that just because financially and accountability you have to do that. So you put leaders ahead of those two groups, and that's when the company splits, right?
and that's how you become a VP of sales, just like you're talking, right?
Yeah.
That's where
That's
that's
right.
how you got to where you're at.
But the thing is that
But they need to understand that's
before all of that happened,
Yes.
it was all one cohesive
Yeah.
team where you sold it, you managed it, you ran it, now all hands on deck. And then you get big and you lose that mentality until all of that fails and you have to go back to that one room, everybody
Good
all
point.
hands on deck.
Very good point.
So if you have this big split division, which is something that I'm currently kind of walking into, well, it's, you know, and years of throwing the ball back and forth across the fence. Now it's your problem. Now you put the fire out. You know, and the point of it is that, so what's the division line? You're going to tell me that you have guys building the job, you have guys managing it, but then you split it, and now you have guys selling it. What happened to the cohesiveness, right? Bring it all back together.
I challenge everybody.
That's culture to me.
No, I agree. Yeah.
That if you sell something, the minute it gets sold and there's a commitment and the production teams, now you're managing your sale, right? You're part of that process, even if you don't ever do anything other than look over your shoulder to see how it went. Because if you don't, you're leaving it up to chance that you would ever be able to call on that prospect again. Right?
You know, it's in construction. It's really easy to me because a project manager, he's not in there tightening bolts with his own hands. Just not in a big organization, right? He's managing finances.
And
That's
he's
what his job
reporting
is.
back to you to tell you how the job's going, right?
So why is he on your side of the fence and me as a salesperson that's on the other? That's weird to me, right? So you got all these guys looking at your project manager talking shit about the sales guy, and you split that line and you create this terrible culture. Well, all he does is bring us shit jobs, and we got to manage them from the bottom up. Or if the sales guy is saying, "I brought you this, you know, beautiful job, and you guys screwed it up on performance." That happens in most companies. You get big.
I mean,
you
you've spoken
split.
to that about walkthroughs and people flying in
Absolutely.
because you
It's
had,
come on, man.
had to solve that.
Depending upon how the organization is laid out, that could very well be a sales issue, or it could very well be like a leadership issue.
Well, yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying is somebody decided that they have an operations, a COO, right? A guy that runs all operations, and they've decided to split under operations. It's all operations to me, right? Everything that happens is a part of operations, even the accounting side, right?
Yeah.
Accounting is part of making all of this work. So why these splits, right?
And it splits because you're a salesperson.
No, what I'm saying is it splits because
companies divide them up and decide that it's easier to control and
it's
manage
control and
from
manage.
the top,
Sure.
from the C-suites down.
But
right?
but what we have to realize is that those are just metaphorical lines on paper. They're not real lines.
Yeah.
Walk
No, I agree with
across, go through the door, sit down, have a conversation with production, and
Man.
say,
Dude,
"Man,
well,
how can we do it better?"
Yeah.
You told me a story the other day about trying to build some rapport, with the new guys on your team.
Talking about
And
Clint.
Clint, yeah, sorry. And they all. Is it okay if we talk about this?
Yeah, go.
Okay. So they all didn't like this one estimator on your team, right? I think he was an estimator. And you were like, well, why why don't you like him? And they're like, well, every time we go in there, he's just always, I did my job and everything else. And,
Oh, this is the old company. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Absolutely.
And you were like, well, do you guys go tell him when it's good? And they're like, no.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that happens too, and it's something we were talking about kind of in our break was before this was how do you know how to in my world how do you know how to estimate a job if you've never looked at the performance data, right, of where your performance, because a book can tell you how to do this all day long, but if you're not actually performing at that level or that data, and you're estimating over here, of course it's going to fail. But that's where that line, that split, and you don't talk back and forth. How can you be cohesive?
And that goes so far past construction.
Oh, absolutely.
Right?
That's just my example, right?
Yeah,
Right.
but
that's a great example.
it's a huge example, right? If you're a graphic designer, right, and you think it takes you an hour to do a logo because you're not tracking anything, but it's actually taking you 3.5 hours.
Exactly. You don't know what your cost
Absolutely.
involved to fulfill a sale.
So why estimate it at an hour? Estimate
Exactly.
it at 3.5. And
Yeah.
if you get the job, you're successful. You'll be successful because you have it there.
Yeah.
And if you don't get the job, then it's not the client for you. Go find somebody that will.
Well, and the thing that happens is that a lot of salespeople just think that the answer to every problem is just to go sell more.
Yeah.
When it's not
Or-
go sell more, it's sell the right
or
kind of
cut
client.
or cut. Right?
Yeah.
That's the big one, right?
Or here's the deal.
I hear that every day. Oh, we're too expensive. We'll never sell.
Be able to
anything.
go back to your C-suite and say, we're having a problem here, and it's not on sales. It's on the fact that we're not profitable because our cost overruns.
Absolutely.
I got estimators.
Yeah.
We're not buying at the right price. What are we doing to hedge against, cost here, our lumber, our steel, our conduit?
Yeah, if
our-
we're
our
using
copper
numbers
piping.
from 30 years ago, well then of course we're going to fail. We're not up to date.
So from a sales standpoint, and there's where I press everybody, if you don't understand all these other dynamics about your business, if you're just getting up blindly, well, you're sort of a puppy dog, right?
Yeah.
You're not running on the front porch with everybody else talking about real things.
And I think that's where in my book I watch a lot of cold calling fail, right? Because you just walk in, you're like, okay, I got this script. All I got to do is pick up the phone and say this script.
Yeah, if you don't know that script,
you don't know the culture. You don't know what you perform. You don't even know the names of your products because you're just told, oh, well, if I get through this script, I go to the next one. But if you can buy into the culture and make that cold call informative, and you know what you're talking about, and you bought into the language and the culture, that cold call's hit ratio just increase. It should
for sure.
It should have just increased tenfold. So,
all right, everybody, it's time for the throwdown.
Man, this went fast.
It did go fast, yeah, for sure. All right, part 2, culture ownership, which is also kind of like a subheading here. Clint as a D, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I spoke to it last time, but it's about what you got to come in and create. But we're talking about culture and leadership, but you're also talking about the day-to-day grind person, right? That you can also create culture. You can create a good culture, or you can create a bad culture. It's kind of up to you how you set the narrative. I think. No, I don't think I know. You can absolutely set the narrative to what your surroundings are. If you don't like it, if there's no room for you to grow in that or be positive in that, get the hell out. Cut bait. Go find somewhere that will. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, salespeople, while you might hear the industry say that you're a dime a dozen, well, you probably are. But there are people out there begging for good salespeople, right? And if you're one of those people, I promise you'll find something. You might have to make 600 phone calls, but good news is you're good at that. So,
Al?
So to reiterate, Clint talking about the narrative. Yes, create your own narrative. Know where your numbers are, though, as well. Know where your company sits. And if you are stuck in a rut where your narrative isn't being heard, or where you're not seeing what you want to see, realize that you can find another landing spot. Maybe it's time to look otherwise, or go, the extra step and, push towards the C-suite, see what they have to say about it. Because all they can tell you is to hit the bricks. But you know what? If you're really performing, they never say that.
That's true.
They always want to keep you. You can raise a fucking stink like nobody's business, like nobody else in the company can do, and they'll still want to keep you because you're not just drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. So, hey, be a contrarian, be a guy that's not offensive. Don't make bad things happen. But if you got the right positive attitude and you're coming in there, have some guts and get the glory.
This is Nan. the S. And I just want to say, don't compete, complement each other.
That's it.
That's it.
Oh, that was super
Sweet.
short.
Held a good message there.
For me, this is not really going to be super applicable to C's because you're probably tracking your stuff anyway. But for everybody else, it's so easy to stick your head in the sand, and that's not helpful. You know, Clint talks about hit ratios, and we talk about success rates and things like that. And you know, the do one, see one, teach one. We are dealing with people, and not everybody needs what you do. So don't let that one kind of knock you off course. Right? This is a game of numbers. You have to manage those numbers and manage your behaviors of those numbers. So just be aware of that and understand that not everyone back to C's thinks about it like you do with all the details, and they don't need all that. So you might need to nurture a little bit more before you rock the boat and dig in. So awesome. So this is our first two-parter. So go back and listen to the first one if you haven't listened to it yet. Or don't, according to Clint. Follow us. Everything on social media is at Sales Throwdown, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. And then if you want to take the assessment, or if you want us to come talk to your team about some of these dynamics and how they show up, either internally as part of your culture or with your prospects and things like that, reach out to us. Send us an email, assessments@salesthrowdown.com, and have a good day.